Hey guys, I'm Randy Younger, and this is another episode of Under the Radar, where we talk all things film and sometimes TV. And we have a very special Super Mario themed episode tonight. But before I get to that, I just want to welcome my wonderful panel of guest critics tonight. We have Forrest Bennett. Welcome back, sir.
Randy, glad to be back, especially for this for a whole I'm all Mario'd out tonight, so
I know.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Awesome, me too. We got Thomas Puglisi. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you. That's awesome. And last but not least, Mr. Brian Smith, his first time on Under the Radar. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great, happy to have you. So, gentlemen, before we get into the Mario stuff, I just wanted to go around real quick and see what you guys are watching recently. I'd say for me, actually, Forrest and I, we went to see Speed yesterday at the Nighthawk in Williamsburg. And that was really cool because I think it was the first time I've ever seen it on the big screen.
Because I've only seen Speed on television on streaming. I've never seen it in theaters.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. It looked great on the big screen.
And the action holds up. It's like it's one of the best action movies of the 90s, in my opinion. So that was a lot of fun. I just finished watching Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne, currently on Peacock. And then I love Natasha.
It looks like you're on a bit of a Natasha Lyonne kick.
Yeah, a little bit. After that, I started watching. I'm in the middle of Russian Doll, which is actually really good. That's on Netflix. And I just started Succession yesterday. That was my lazy Saturday. And I watched about 4 episodes of that. Really good show. And also, I am knee deep in the films of Ridley Scott just for the hell of it. Thanks to watching Black Rain fairly recently.
Oh, I love Black Rain.
Black Rain's great. With a great score by Hans Zimmer.
Yep.
So that made me want to check out or rewatch 1492 Conquest of Paradise, which was a movie that Scott directed in 1992.
It was one of 2 movies about Christopher Columbus that came out that year.
Yeah, I think this was more of the high-profile Christopher Columbus movies with Gerard Depardieu as Columbus. It's actually pretty decent. And I started watching G.I. Jane as well. So there's a lot more Ridley Scott material out there. So I'm excited.
I would say if you have an Alien or Blade Runner night, let me know.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Okay, Brian, since you're new to the game, what have you been watching lately?
I just want to say it's funny you mentioned Black Rain and Speed in the same mention because I'm a soundtrack junkie and I saw Speed in the theaters back in the day. They used the Black Rain soundtrack in the trailer. So that's what got me to the theater.
Brian, wow, you are awesome. It's like you're crawling inside my head because I rewatched the Speed trailer just for that one moment where you hear the Black Rain score. And
it's pretty much the whole trailer. Yeah,
it's the second half of it. Which is sad for Black Rain because that was only like maybe a 5-second cue. But thankfully for the Speed trailer, they expanded it for like maybe 20-30 seconds.
Right.
And, that's the best part of the trailer. So Brian, thank you.
No problem. I just as far as recent films, I just saw John Wick 4. That's what I'm saying. Because I rewatched the first 3 just to sort of reacquaint myself with them and went to go see it in the theater because I heard so many good things about it. It's funny. It's appropriate, I think, that we're talking about video game movies today because that's exactly how I feel about the John Wick. But they're fine. They're actually fine. But it's like watching someone else play a walkthrough, so it's interesting. I'm on.
It's kind of like a live action beat 'em up. It's kind of like a live action beat 'em up.
It's like watching someone who's really good at a video game just play a video game, and they're just really good at it. That's kind of how engaged I am with it. It's fine. I think they could trim some stuff, but that's we're not here to talk about John Wick. But that's my whole thing. I've been watching Slasher on Shudder. I just started that this weekend. Slasher the series. I'm a big fan of that show, and I've tried talking to it with some fellow horror fans, and people are like, "Oh, I don't like the characters on." I'm like, "They have chainsaws and some cool gore," and so it's a really fun show. So I'm interested to finish that. And I'm screening some films with New York City Horror Film Festival, so I'm screening some films for them, and just keeping busy that way, and trying to finish up some books as well. I just finished The Knock at the Cabin, the Cabin at the End of the World, book. Just finished that today.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Wait, is that what the M. Night Shyamalan movie is based on?
Yeah, yeah, it's a Paul
Okay.
Tremblay novel, and yeah, I was trying to read it before I saw the movie, and then the movie came out, and I was like, all right, I'll just go see the movie. I was halfway through the book, and then saw the movie, and so I could compare it and see the changes and stuff. It's okay, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie's lackluster. But it has a great performance from Batista, Dave Batista. But
Yeah, yeah. Interesting premise too. It's and Dave Bautista's really good in it. Just ultimately, I was just sort of like, it's fine. It's
right,
okay.
right. It exists. It's fine.
Right.
All right. Thomas, how about you? What are you watching these days?
Well, just recently I watched a couple of killer alligator movies that's just simply called Alligator. And like it was a pretty fun little monster flick. And I also watched its sequel called Alligator 2: The Mutation, which was kind of just a cheesy rehash of the first movie, so didn't really get into that one too much.
I've seen both of those. They're fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does, do they both take place in Manhattan, or is it a different city?
I think it was actually Los Angeles, if I
Oh,
remember
is
correctly.
LA? Oh,
Yeah,
nice. Cool. All
The
right.
original one of my
Riff on that
favorites.
idea of alligators in the sewers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, doers. So
Or so they riff on that urban legend of alligators in the sewers.
Right, right.
right, yeah.
Anything else, Thomas?
Just watching the usual like superhero shows like The Flash and Gotham Knights right now. So they're still going on in the CW. The Flash right now is on its last season's pretty much almost over.
Okay.
Yeah, the Arrowverse is coming to an end after a decade.
Yeah. Well, all good things have to come to an end, as they always say.
True, true. Well, hopefully we'll have a good experience with the Flash movie. So yeah, fingers crossed on that one, but we'll see.
You mean the Batman movie co-starring the Flash?
Yeah, yeah. Nicely done.
Yep.
But yeah, that's basically why we're seeing it. We don't want to see a criminal running around. Ezra Miller is just trash, but whatever. No, I actually did like him in the Justice League movie. I think he was one of the stronger elements, but that's neither here nor there. Because tonight we're going to talk about Super Mario Brothers. And before we get into the reviews, I just want to go around and just talk about some of our earliest memories with the Mario franchise. For me, I think it was Christmas 1990. And I had received Super Mario Brothers 3 off the Nintendo cartridge, but my aunt, she bought me the gift. She didn't even know that I didn't have the system. So I had to buy the system because I got the game. And it's, to this day, one of my top 3 favorite video games of all time, Super Mario Brothers 3. Faris, how about yourself? What's your earliest memories of Mario?
My earliest Mario was okay. So I remember going to my grandmother's house as well as my grandfather's house. My grandparents are divorced, but because all my uncles all had Nintendos.
Okay.
So I'd go to their places and be playing the original Super Mario Brothers, like on the car, on that double cartridge with Duck Hunt.
Oh yeah, yep.
Wow.
Yeah. The NES, yeah.
Yep.
I think, yeah, the
One, Brian.
there it is. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a 2-for-1.
I have that cartridge at home.
That's in good condition, Brian, too. That's a collectible right there.
It's okay. I mean, you could probably. I think I had to blow on the cartridge, but
Beautiful.
I still have my NES at home. But yeah, so that was one of my first memories. But then, although when I was 8 years old, I saved up enough Toys R Us Jeffrey dollars to buy a Super Nintendo.
Nice.
Which came with Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World.
Yes.
All in one cartridge.
Right. It was Mario 1 through 3,
World levels.
And so it was 5 games. Was it four games?
It was 5 games in one cartridge.
What a great that was. Yeah. I got the SNES in I think it was 92. So I was a little late to the game.
I was later than you because SNES came to America in 91.
Yeah.
I didn't get it until 96. I was 8 years old by
96? Then. Okay. Brian, how about you? First experience with Mario?
I'm hazy on the dates, but I know I got a Nintendo one Christmas, and that's it came with the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt there. So I've basically had it ever since. I'm assuming I'm a little older than everyone here on the panel, but
Yeah.
I was pretty much I was a fan of Super Mario Brothers. I never beat it, and I never made it to Super Mario 2. And then I just sort of went more into the horror games and
Right,
Castlevania
right.
and that sort of stuff. So, Super Mario was fun and entertaining. But then my cousins, my nephews, they all had like the Super NES and the Mario Kart. So I sort of kept up on the system and the games that way, just sort of in the periphery. But yeah, in terms of seeing the movie, it was just sort of like just nostalgia for that original game and just knowing the basics of the premise. So yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, all of it. So, because you said you never beat the original Super Mario Brothers. I think I first played Super Mario Brothers when I was like 2 or 3 years old. I didn't beat it until I was 15.
Yeah. It's funny with beating the game. I think my father played my SNES more than I did, and he actually he had a Super Mario Brothers 3 Secrets Handbook, and he was about our age around that time, 30s, something like that, and he would go through that book and he would just find all the whistles, all the power-ups, everything, all the secrets, and he actually beat it. He killed Bowser in the final level. So shout out to my dad. I love you. Thomas, how about you, sir?
Okay, well, I'm also a little hazy on what years and how old I was when I played it, but I mean, I remember playing it the same kind of cartridge, the one of Mario and Duck Hunt, and yeah. So I used to play it from here and there when I was a kid on my NES, and of course, I was a little older when I played Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3. Of course, I could probably say that Super Mario Brothers 2 is probably my least favorite out of all those three. But I mean, probably my favorite could be probably the third one because I've always really liked the graphics in that one. I liked when you become that fox and you're able to
Raccoon.
A raccoon. Sorry, yeah, raccoon. Yeah, yeah. I always enjoyed that, and but yeah, I was never really too good at playing the first game. It was always very hard for me, I'll openly admit. But but despite that, I always enjoyed playing them no matter what.
Yeah, I think my favorite is probably, I mean, maybe Mario Brothers 3 is a notch above World.
I would go with personally. I would go with World.
Really? See, I just had
because World had the same function.
It did, but for 3, I have stronger nostalgic memories. With 3, it's really ingrained in my DNA. But World is fantastic too. I don't think 2 gets a lot of love.
Well, 2 was originally another game called Doki Doki Panic.
Right.
While Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan was basically the same as Super Mario Brothers 1, but with much crazier levels.
Right.
But eventually it was released in America as The Lost Levels.
Right. That's true. That's true.
But basically the Super Mario Brothers 2 we got here in America was another game called Doki Doki Panic repackaged with Mario, repackaged and rebranded with Mario characters.
Now, originally, was that game, did it have different character design then?
Yeah.
Okay. Were they far off from looking like Mario and everybody?
I mean, I think the main character you played as he kind of looked like Mario, but he wore a turban.
Huh.
Okay. And he wore like the baggy pants like Aladdin wears.
That's strange. Well, yeah, well, I love that they repackaged it because it's a decent, I mean, it's a weird game. Throwing turnips and stuff and this.
Yeah, no, it's true. Both Mario 2 and Zelda 2.
Yeah.
Nothing like their predecessor.
Right.
Well, nothing like that. Nothing like what came before or after them.
Right. Well, that was a weird little hiccup, I guess, with Nintendo. All right. So, guys, we're all here to discuss. Well, we have 2 reviews, all Mario based. The first one is the new Mario movie that came out this past week, and visually, I think it's stunning. It's a beautifully animated film. I think that the voice acting was decent. I still don't get Chris Pratt as Mario, but
I was expecting worse from Chris Pratt, but he wasn't horrible. He was not terrible.
He was serviceable.
Well, yeah, he was horrible, but he wasn't great.
Right. I think
Jack Black was the true star.
He was great. I love his singing in it too. Yep. Jack Black was hilarious. Anya Taylor-Joy was actually really good.
Yeah.
And Charlie Day as Luigi, I think, was perfect. Also, Brian Tyler, I think he provided a pretty decent score here. It's kind of generic, but I would have loved to seen heard like John Powell or Danny Elfman here. But I think Brian Tyler was.
He got a lot of the classic cues from the games.
Right. That's what I love about it, and that's why I'm going to download the soundtrack to hear that lovely nostalgia in the score. And speaking of score, Brian, what did you think of it? Or what did you think of the film and then the score?
The film overall, I was fine with it. I went to go see it 3D. It was a packed house, with families and kids and stuff. And yeah, the 3D was nice. The animation, I like the return to just pleasant primary colors. It was beautiful to look at.
Right.
It wasn't dark and grimy and whatnot. It was giving me the nostalgia. It was hitting all the beats. Yeah, I thought the voice acting was fine. Like you said, it was serviceable. For the longest time, I didn't quite know who all the cast was, so I didn't know Anya Taylor-Joy was the Peach until the end. I was like, is that Emma Stone? Is that Jennifer Lawrence? I couldn't tell. So the whole time, it was.
You're all interchangeable.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, and today I was thinking, oh, what if they just got the It's Always Sunny, the entire cast, it just
I can see
the
that.
AI repurposed the voices, and it's like Danny DeVito doing Mario or something.
Well,
Because I think
DeVito they wanted DeVito to play Mario back in '93. So
93, right? Yeah, I think their dynamic on It's Always Sunny would have worked here because Charlie Day has a more distinctive voice, more comedic voice. I think here was a little more toned down. Maybe they thought he'd be a little too high pitched or something, but I think he would have been great as Mario. I think he would have been comedic and funny. But Chris Pratt is, I guess, the name or whatever. But they weren't fine. They were fine. I think overall the story, it was pretty simple. It was giving me the game beats and what I knew again on from my childhood and the periphery, and you get into the beats of like the Save the Cat screenwriting structure of like, okay, here are the fun and games. Him doing the obstacle course, and it's like, okay, they're just basically giving me the game and showing me the visuals, and I'm fine with that.
Right.
And I liked the Mario Kart nod and all that sort of stuff. It was just basically, it was just very cool and moved fast, and it was harmless and wasn't too cringe, compared to like some of the other animation films that are out there sometimes when you see the trailers and you hate life. This is I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was good.
Now, what I love about this movie is that it like I said, they do this with a lot of sequels and reboots, is basically exposing this story, this franchise to a new generation. And I think this movie does that perfectly. So this basically shows kids now a different side of Mario, the original Mario, and guys in our 30s and 40s, we love it, but I'm really happy that kids can love it too.
Yeah.
So that's what my main takeaway it was from this film.
And I appreciate they didn't overdo the sort of 80s jukebox, even though it's in there. There's like at least two or three songs. It wasn't like wall to wall. They gave a little more breathing room for the score and made it feel more like a movie, not just the cynical cash grab with let's throw in some jukebox songs to keep the adults awake and that sort of thing.
Right. Kind of
But
like
I feel like there's a list of songs from the 80s, rock and pop that are probably overused in a lot of cartoons. Like I feel like I've heard these songs in other movies of this style. So I'm like, maybe we can just keep a list together, a running list of how many times have we used this, and can we use an alternate?
We get that jukebox animated style in like Shrek and the stuff like that.
I Need a Hero.
That's kind of thing though with
like,
DreamWorks and Illumination. They
they just throw in these pop songs for stimulation, but it waters down the script, in my opinion.
Right.
It doesn't really benefit the film.
I'll admit the soundtrack, like not the score, but the soundtrack is one area where I'm starting to compare it to the '93 movie, where the '93 movie was a combination of originals and cover songs.
Right. But we'll get to that in a few minutes, actually. Thomas, what were your thoughts regarding the new Mario?
Well, I really enjoyed it very much. I really did like the animation style, like what you guys were just talking about. Really did like the color vibe. I also really did think the voice acting was pretty good. I mean, I did think Chris Pratt was a tad miscast because you can clearly tell he's trying to do an Italian accent and doesn't quite get it.
Right.
And I really did like, of course, the otherworldly look to it. Like the Mushroom Kingdom was actually like very stylish. So, and I also did like some nods of like the 2D side scrollers, like the original video games.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
All over the obstacle courses, them like rushing to get to their plumbing jobs. So I really enjoyed that part very much.
I wanted more of that style of like the side scroller.
Yeah.
That was the best aspect
That
of
was
the
a lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah,
yes.
it's really cool.
Yeah. And I also really did like how they also included Donkey Kong as well, since obviously you play as Mario in the Donkey Kong
I was
video
like, Mario
game.
started out as the protagonist of Donkey Kong.
Yeah. So they touched on that.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
have
I also think that Seth Rogen pretty good choice to voice Donkey Kong.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. I would have wanted more like an origin story.
I,
Like
you know, I think for me, I would have liked to have seen. I felt that number one. I felt because in this movie, Mario and Luigi are rookies as plumbers.
Yeah.
I think they should have been more. They should have been seasoned as plumbers, but rookies as heroes.
yeah.
And then also I would have liked to have seen just a little more of Mario and Luigi in action together.
Right.
Well,
Well, maybe
I don't want to give too much away, but
right. Yeah. Also, Brian, this is a spoiler-free zone.
Oh, gotcha.
We don't want people watching this to be spoiled.
but still overall, I had a lot of fun. I
Right.
had a lot of fun with it. I feel like it was very much it's almost everything a Mario fan could want out of a Mario movie.
Right. So when
Um,
I heard about this movie, it was like a couple years ago, maybe a year or two ago. I was pretty excited, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I was optimistically nervous about a lot of sequels and reboots, and
especially with video game movies.
yeah, especially
And on top of that, it had been nearly 30 years since
right.
the 93 movie, and Nintendo, and like, because Nintendo, after that movie flopped, Nintendo was reluctant to
Right.
let any of their properties get adapted into
For
film.
3 decades.
Yeah.
That's insane. But
All it took was Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu to greenlight Mario.
right. And I'm glad they did. I'm glad they reignited the flame of Mario. And I think we got a strong film here. And again, introducing a new generation. The kids are gonna love it. It's a really fun.
I had families actually dressed up as Mario and Luigi, and also Princess Peach as well.
That's great.
Wow.
That's really nice. I love hearing that. This is a perfect family movie, and it's just a very,
One that should be able to have cross-generational appeal.
of course,
Mhm.
cross-generational, and also different eras. So,
Yeah.
not just guys in 30s and 40s looking for some fan service and nostalgia. I think kids are really enjoying this. So.
Yeah, and I liked all of them nods to other Nintendo games like Punch Out, Wrecking Crew,
Mhm.
Kid Icarus.
Where did I read something today that they're hoping this is the beginning of like a long line, sort of like an MCU type of deal, which will culminate in Super Smash Brothers. So
I could see that. Yeah.
that's possible.
Man, be a spin-off with Donkey Kong and Seth
Yeah.
Rogen voice as well.
Yeah, much stranger things have happened. So
Oh yeah.
we'll-
I would also like to see like maybe in a sequel, which I'm sure will happen. Maybe they can include Wario as the villain in the sequel.
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
I feel like for me, I think a lot of the problems I have with the movie, I think all of them will probably be, odds are they will most likely be rectified with the inevitable sequel.
Yeah. So basically, they're just this is sort of almost like an experiment.
Yeah.
It's like a prototype for the future movies, and I'm excited to see what the future of Nintendo movies, because this is a good indicator that we're in the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
I sort of feel like video game, film and television adaptations of it, because film and television adaptations of video games from the 80s up until like the last few years have just kind of gained a reputation of being crap, like like the old Super Mario Brothers Super Show from the 80s.
Right.
Oh god, Street Fighter and by the way, but now you got Mario, you've got Castlevania, The Last of Us.
Yeah, The Last of Us.
That prove that that have finally starting to figure it out.
And you know what? I just want to show everybody else. I dug this out of my collection, my childhood library, basically, and this is a collection of comics.
The old Valiant Mario comics
Yeah.
from the early 90s. I had some of those.
1990. So it coincided with Super Mario World, and Mario 3, and it's basically a collection of their adventures. And I don't think I've looked at this in maybe close to 30 years. So this is an amazing little artifact. It's in good condition too. Brian, maybe we can start a little collection on eBay or something. I don't know.
Do we think maybe the change in the content these days is a result of the actual fans and the players now being sort of like the tastemakers and the creators in the industry, and as opposed to the industry trying to cater to the young fans back in the day. Now it's sort of like everyone who grew up with this stuff knows
Yeah.
it. They have it in their DNA. They know what works, and
Yeah.
they're the ones who are sort of writing the scripts and producing the films and creating the content. I feel like that's the shift we're seeing. You know, it's not like it's not talking down to the audience. It's like they are the audience. They're
Right.
the ones creating it now.
Like it's all franchises now, especially
Yeah.
stuff that started up in the 70s and 80s, like Star Wars is a good example, where
Right.
the fanboys are writing the future of these franchises. It's
Yeah.
all about the fanboys, basically.
Yeah, all at the same time they kind of run the risk of writing and getting a little too a little too fan service.
Yeah, right.
And kind of just getting self cannibalizing.
Okay. Yeah, good point. But in terms of that, I think that's a discussion for another time, especially with Star Wars, because I actually was watching a little bit of Mandalorian this afternoon. But yeah, fan service, it's there, and it'll be there with the next generation of fans, I think. So I say keep it going. As long as you can keep the storylines fresh and original, then there shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Thomas, what would you say? Would you is this movie on your radar? Is the new Mario Brothers on Thomas's radar?
Yes, I would say go see it. It's a really enjoyable movie, very fun to watch. Like no matter how old you are, like whether you're in your 30s like me or whether you're a little kid, I think you'll enjoy it.
Sounds good. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're a dusty old fogey like me, I would say it's fun. It's you can just shut your brain off and it's entertaining. If you have experience with Super Mario Brothers, even just a base knowledge of the games and the characters, I think there's enough here that is visually appealing. The animation's great. It's entertaining, and just I recommend it to families and kids. Go see it.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Forrest?
I agree. See, yeah, I'm definitely see it. Excellent. And the animation is excellent. The product looks fantastic. It truly looks like a game.
Yeah.
A game true to the spirit of the games, while also still taking advantage, telling a story.
I just wish we got this movie sooner. That's all.
Instead of having to wait 30 years.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of older fans will enjoy it.
Right.
Younger fans will enjoy it too.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something for if you're a Mario fan, if you're a Mario fan or like a Nintendo fan, I think there's something for them. Although I should, because I have an 11-year-old nephew who's a gamer, but he's not a Nintendo. He's not a Nintendo. He's an Xbox kid, so I don't know if it'll appeal to him.
You've got to convert him. You really
No, at his age,
no.
I kind of feel like with Nintendo, you got to get him early.
I mean,
My,
I would talk to him again. Try to sway him in that direction.
so
No?
he's an X. I've kind of come to accept that my nephew is he's an Xbox. He's pretty much an Xbox kid.
Xbox kid.
So, you've got Xbox kids, Nintendo kids, and PlayStation kids,
Right.
and then
right.
you've got the PC gamers.
Well, I love it all. I'm an every platform fan, so that's me. Because after NES I got a Genesis, and after Genesis I got the SNES. So it was a weird trajectory.
for me, I went from Nintendo and Super Nintendo to PlayStation 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then I went back to Nintendo for the Wii.
Okay.
And then, well, I don't know, because that's the last console. That's the last new console I got.
Oh, really? All right.
But
well, I'll tell you with this movie again, introducing a new generation. It's a great way to start the spring. I'd say it's a lovely film. Bring the whole family. Brian, real quick regarding the score, what did you think overall? Would you have recommended anyone else or?
Well, I didn't know who did the score until the credits because they kept the credits till the end. But when you mentioned Danny Elfman, he might have been good. He might have been too bombastic. Brian Tyler he's also serviceable. He's made his name in different types of movies, different genres. But there are moments where when they're in certain locations and you hear little nods to that particular location in the game and things like that, which I appreciated, but it was done orchestrally. It wasn't done it was it wasn't like a member berry type of thing, but it was done. If you caught it, then you caught it. It was all there.
It wasn't obnoxious. It wasn't over the top. which was
That's
great.
that's what, yeah, overall, that's what I felt like the whole film felt that way. It was just sort
Right.
of like it's not hitting you over the head with references and remember this and all these different things that you have to sort of remember. It's just telling this simple story. It's giving you the game, it's giving you the elements, but
And
it's keeping it very simple.
Right, and while also celebrating about 40 years worth of
Mm.
Mario
yeah.
games.
Yeah. There are games I didn't play that I'm sure are all up on the screen and references and things, but I was having fun,
And so you would recommend this to everyone?
Yeah. There's some really cool stuff there. Maybe want to watch Ready Player One again, just
Nice.
for the action scenes.
Cool. That's a very underrated film, I must say. Underrated, I should say. Ready Player One.
Nice pun.
So, thank you, sir. So yeah, I think it's unanimous. I think we're all fans of the new Mario movie. And yeah, bring your families, bring everybody to go see it. It's just a fun one,
Mhm.
So all right, guys. So we're just gonna take a short commercial break. But yeah.
Actually, speaking
Yeah.
of, also because you mentioned short, it's also the flight because a lot of blockbuster movies now try to go like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
This one was a very economical 90 minutes.
It was very brisk. Yeah,
Yes.
briskly paced. So that's another plus, because yeah, you're right. A lot of blockbusters are well over the 2-hour mark, and this movie is very refreshing in that respect. All right, we're gonna take a short commercial break, but we'll be back with our second film review, Super Mario Brothers from 1993, right after this.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Patent pending interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com/gemgirl or call 718-268-6634.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Rainy Younger, Under the Radar. And now, guys, we're going to talk about a movie from 30 years ago, and this is at the time
that kind of lives on in infamy.
Yeah, at the time, and a lot of critics, it did not do very well at the box office. Critics did not like it much.
Fans hate it. Fans hate it. I mean, fans hate it. Fans. I mean,
Even the stars of the movie hated it, for that matter.
who?
The stars of the movie.
Oh
hated
yeah.
it.
So we've got Bob Hoskins, we got John Leguizamo,
Leguizamo,
Samantha Mathis as
Dennis
Daisy.
Hopper.
Yep. We've got it's actually a really good cast.
Yeah.
But the production design is strange. It's like Mad Max meets Blade Runner. It's Dino Hatton, I believe it's called.
Dino Hatton.
Yeah. An alternate Manhattan, which is basically populated by dinosaurs and
or
freaks
like descendants of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I think it was the production
descendants
designer
of
from
dinosaurs.
Blade Runner, right?
yeah. Oh, one of the production designers worked on Blade Runner.
Yeah.
That's what we got here. And since 1993, it has developed a cult following. That's why we're talking
At the
about
same
it
time,
now.
though, it's hard to find. It's kind of hard to find now. Cause I mean, I
Uh-huh.
lucked out and got it on got a copy from Best. Got a DVD copy from Best Buy, but it's not on Blu-ray. It's not on streaming.
Yeah, it's difficult to get. It's out there though, and it's in our memories and our hearts, I'd say. But Thomas, what are your memories? What are your recollections of the '93 Mario?
Well, I mean, I remember enjoying it as a kid, of course, but of course, getting older, it doesn't really hold up too well. I could totally see why. Like, it did, of course, butcher the source material quite a bit. Of course, there were, a lot of little nods here and there of the game, but like they mainly just use the names of the characters, of course, like Mario and Luigi, and also there's a little dinosaur named Yoshi.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's elements from the franchise.
And they wear like they wear the colors in the hats, but
66 minutes into the movie.
yeah.
Oh yeah, like more of like towards the end, like the second half of the movie, they wear their trademark stuff.
Right.
Of course, like I'll just do like explain their little like big jumps, like they wear those rocket shoes.
Right.
Swamps.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we've got the a very awesome villain in Dennis Hopper's King Koopa. And yeah, also for my private collection. And that was a period of time when Dennis Hopper was being cast as a villain and
Yeah.
everything. So it was this, then Speed in 94,
94,
and
yeah.
Waterworld in 95.
Yeah.
So those are the three big movies that he was a villain in that time period.
Yeah, and then also he had he had Blue Velvet back in the 80s where
Right.
Yeah.
He was a great actor,
Yeah.
though, no question about it. And I think he was perfect as Koopa, which was inspired a little bit by a certain ex-president who is in the news these days. But yeah, we don't have to get into that. Forrest, what were your takeaways from the '93 film?
All right, so I didn't see it I didn't see it in theaters when it came out, but I did get it. I did get it on VHS for my birthday, and I remember watching it over and over. I liked it at the time, and because I already knew Bob Hoskins from Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Hook,
Right.
and I thought, and even though he hated the movie and he admitted he'd been drinking throughout the production,
I think Leguizamo was drinking too on set.
yeah, both of them were drunk. I think both of them were. Well, I think Hoskins in particular was actually a pretty good Mario. Nailed that gruff Brooklyn attitude
Physically and
So,
he sound just like him. He was perfect.
And Leguizamo, this was my introduction to Leguizamo, whom I have had the pleasure of seeing do stand up live. I've seen him do stand up live.
Oh, cool. Okay.
He's one of my favorite comedians.
Okay.
Actually, I would say Super Mario Brothers is a large part of why he's one of my favorite comedians.
Do you remember the show on Fox, House of Buggin'?
No,
Yep.
I remember Living Color. I remember Mad TV.
Okay.
I remember House of Buggin', yeah.
House of Buggin' was a show. It was sort of like In Living Color, but it was just Leguizamo and like a few other people.
It was all a Latino
I
cast.
think so. Yeah.
Luis Guzman, yeah. Luis
It was
Guzman.
actually, it wasn't bad actually, and I think I watched it because of his role in the '93 movie.
Yeah. But yeah, at the time, I ate it up. Even though it looked nothing like the games, just like little references and Easter eggs. But
Yeah.
at the time, I was cool. I was excited for a Mario movie.
Of course.
And until I was a little older that I realized that this movie, I didn't realize how much like Batman and Robin. It's one of those things where I ate it up as a kid. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I realized how hated it was.
Right, because when you're a kid and you see this, and it's like you're so excited that it's a Mario,
Or that it exists.
that anything related to Mario, you want to just gobble it up.
Yeah.
But then when you grow up, kind of 25 years later, and you're an adult now, and you look back on it, it's like this is very bizarre.
Bizarre and silly.
Like, what the hell were these people thinking making this movie?
Exactly.
But at the same time, I rewatched it a few weeks ago.
I was watching because I'm on my podcast Inside Movies Glory recently covered it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Nice.
But actually, I remember watching once with my dad. My dad, with my dad, the only video game he's ever really gotten into was Tetris. But
oh yes,
my dad's also a big punk rock guy.
Okay.
And I remember watching Mario with him, and the scene where Mario, Luigi, and Toad get arrested.
Yeah.
Because Toad was played by Mojo Nixon, who's a big name in underground music.
Okay.
And my dad was like, because my dad knew who he was and was like, "Oh my God, what's Mojo Nixon doing in this movie?" Yeah. Which even Mojo Nixon himself wonders why he did that movie.
I would say the same for Lance Henriksen, who is painfully underused here as the king.
It's weird because this is actually the first movie I saw Lance Henriksen in, but I said, growing up, I always associated Lance Henriksen more with Aliens.
Of course.
And it wasn't until I was older that I realized that was Lance Henriksen.
Right. Same.
Yeah.
Brian, what were your thoughts on the '93 film?
Well, even back then, fans of the game and anyone who knew about Super Mario Brothers, I was aware that it had like a bad rep, and so I didn't see it in the theaters, and I saw bits and pieces of it on cable, enough to piece it together to realize that it wasn't a great film. And so it wasn't until maybe last week that I was able to really catch up on it and watch it and sort of be able to compare. And yeah, it's a mess. You can tell it's a mess. There's a lot of, in hindsight, I remember even back then it was like post Burton's Batman's, when they were sort of taking campy, properties and sort of, making them grittier and making them darker and stuff. So that was the I think the feeling from fans even back then. We're like, oh, they're just doing the Batman thing to Super Mario. It looks all like, it doesn't look like the game at all. And so in revisiting and watching it, it was just sort of like, I remember hearing that there were a lot of writers on it and there was a lot of drama on set, but you can tell it's almost like the writers and the creators and whoever, everyone who funded it decided, they looked at the instruction booklet that came with the video game, they got the characters and the basic gist of it, and then they just went to town creating this dystopian thing with sets that they had around. It just has that feeling, that gritty, gross, like feeling like like it's cynically made. They didn't know what they were doing, and they just sort of took the basic ideas of it and put it all together in a film.
So a while back, me and a few of my Trome buddies got together and recorded a dramatic table reading of one of the earlier drafts
Uh-huh.
of the original Mario movie, and the earlier drafts tend there's still some of the basic plot points, like they're from Brooklyn. They meet the princess in Brooklyn and they end up in this alternate dimension, but there was a lot more aspect. It definitely resembled the game more, resembled the game more. And then it just kind of got, after all these rewrites, it just mutated into, it de-evolved into the primordial super.
Their hearts were in the right place here, but the execution was just lacking. Which is
it was too many cooks in the kitchen. It was a case of too many cooks in the kitchen.
And they should have just kept it simple. I don't know why they didn't. They just didn't know what they had on their hands. They didn't know it was going to be this ridiculous.
I don't think they really knew how to adapt the game at the time. They didn't really know how to adapt, because this was actually the first movie ever based on this was the first movie adapted from a video game.
Right.
Historically, yeah, that's the historical distinction. It is the first one. I was like, really? And Mortal Kombat was like right after.
Actually, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Well, actually, because I remember, because 93 was Mario. 94 was Double Dragon and Street Fighter, and then 95 was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I think Mortal Kombat was probably like the most successful out of all those games.
Yeah.
And that was because they had a great theme song. All they had to do was keep playing that theme song, and that was, it's kind of a piece of shit if you revisit it. But the game itself, the movie, the music is what carries it along.
I definitely had the cassette tape, and I would play that on my Walkman while I rollerbladed in the mid '90s. Good times.
It's 2023. I still listen to it.
Me too.
It's a great. It will pump you up.
It really is. It holds up. It's a fun tune for sure.
Like if I'm sitting in a theater and that song just starts playing and they just put like 2025, I'm there. Just that's all you need to sell it. Seriously.
Now, do you gentlemen do you think this Mario, well, the new Mario is a positive shift in video game movies? Do you think this is
I think so.
Do you think the future is bright here?
As I mentioned earlier, like we're starting to see more film and television adaptations of games like Mario, Castlevania, and The Last of Us that are actually
entertaining, thought provoking.
Yes.
The fans are they're engaging engaging for the fans.
Right.
And simply told. It's not, it's a simple story. It's not, doesn't have to be as involved as the 93 movie. The 93 movie really gets into like, the sort of Mad Max territory of just, really getting into the weeds of it. And it's really just a simple story. He's a guy that jumps around, goes through pipes, and, gets power-ups. That's all you got.
That's he's a princess.
Right. It's the basic through line story. Even the new movie sort of uses those beats, and I think that's why it kind of works. I mean, Top Gun Maverick kind of used those same beats too. It lays out the plot. It's simple. I think we've been inundated with so many films that are so intricate with their stories, and you have to remember 8 movies ago and who had what prop and that sort of thing, and that you get lost in the storytelling and people are shocked when a movie that comes out that's just simple and in a 3-act structure that's like, oh my god, it was a good movie. My brain doesn't hurt.
It's an easygoing movie. Audiences will love it. Audiences are loving it. I think it's number 1 at the box office.
It's up there. Yeah, it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like first few shows at my theater were sold out.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I had to see a late show due to how sold out it was.
See,
And
I
then you
love
have 3D, you have 4DX, I think, were available, and so it's raking up dollars that way too.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that we'll see plenty of sequels. I'm hoping we get a nice Star Fox and a Zelda movie. That would be a
Right.
lot of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, that could be
So
cool.
I'm excited here. This is good.
But I'm with you. It's a shame they didn't come out sooner.
Yeah.
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 You know.
I'm definitely glad that they kept it as an animated movie because obviously, if they did live action, what would you think of?
I think if they did another go at a live action version of this, it would have been really good if it was done by the right people. Like maybe
Mhm.
say like a Sam Raimi almost, because he's had some good experience with like animated stuff, or
Mhm.
at least films with good visual effects. I'm thinking Bobby Moynihan might have been a good Mario. He was on SNL.
Right.
And I think if he were a little younger, maybe Jack Black would have been a good choice too.
Mhm.
Like Jack Black maybe 20 years ago.
Right, yeah. Or maybe even 10 or 15 years.
Did you
So
see the Pedro Pascal spoof on SNL?
I did, yeah. That was
Yeah.
Yes.
Mario Kart.
Actually, I almost forgot Sonic the Hedgehog. Another solid
You're right.
adaptation.
You're
That's-
right. That was and the sequel wasn't as great as the first
Really,
one.
I actually like the second Sonic. more
Yeah.
than the first.
No, I think the first one had more of an impact, to be honest with you.
I
But
haven't
I'm
seen
optimistic.
those yet. Because I went from Nintendo to Sega to PlayStation, and yeah, I was a big fan of Sonic, but I haven't seen the movies yet, and I'm pretty sure is it just him just hanging out on the couch with the other actor, like in the live action type thing? Because I would just rather.
Well,
Is it good or is? Maybe I'll rent it. I would rather just hear the music. A big part of that movie and that game is the music and the action and stuff. But if it's just him like doing fart jokes on the couch or whatever, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of a good score, video game score.
oh, video games.
Well, yeah, Sonic is one of my favorites. I think Super Mario. Well, the whole time I was watching Super Mario Brothers, I was just thinking of the Sonic music. Super Mario is more for nostalgia, but I think Sonic. They used to do those video games live shows, which oh man, I would have loved to have seen. But they have clips of those on YouTube, and if you look up like the Sonic, it's amazing. They have like a choir singing the Sega, and then they just go right into it, and it's beautiful.
That's
And a full orchestra.
Brian, have you? I'm sorry, Thomas.
I think another good video game score was Contra.
Yeah.
You know what? I think all of us. I think Thomas. If you come back to New York, we should all go to Barcade. I think that's on the agenda.
Yeah, hoping to do a New York visit next year. I'm really working hard on that.
Okay.
I'll throw another video game score out there for you, and it's actually in line with the sort of Super Mario Brothers, Freedom Fighters by Jesper Kid. It was a PlayStation 2 game, and you're playing these two. It's almost like it's like Super Mario Brothers versus the Russians or something. It's basically but it's like the Russians take over New York, and you're a plumber. you're a plumber basically.
What?
And you assemble this group of freedom fighters among just the citizens, and it's one of those games where you can assemble a full team. If you use a cheat, you can get like 10 people on your team, and you can direct them to go like fight the bad guys and scout ahead and stuff like. It's a great game, but Jesper Kid's soundtrack is amazing. Look it up on it's on YouTube. Freedom Fighters. It's one of those underrated games that I don't think anyone. I'm surprised it's not a movie. It's really good.
Sounds fun.
It's very Hunt for Red October. It's got the choir, and I was like, this is a video game. For crying out loud. It's great sport.
We got a little vintage Basil Paldaris.
Yeah.
I love it already.
Yeah.
Good.
I love the team aspect of it. That's the best part of it. It's just being able to sort of be a leader of a group and directing people to go. They'll like take out some enemies from a distance, and you can direct them and strategically place them in areas. It's a really fun game.
Wait, is it was it like Soviets or is it like zombies?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just they pull no punches on it. It's just Soviets take over. It's like an alternate universe. Soviets take over New York, and they've created like little stations here and there, and you have to sort of take out like the post office to reclaim it and put the American flag. It's a very American game,
It
but
sounds like Red Dawn meets New York.
It's very Red Dawn. Yeah,
Okay.
That's exactly it. You start off as a sort of like unlikely hero, and then by the end of the game, you're like the leader of this squad of like fellow citizens, who are taking up arms.
It's
It's
a good
interesting.
movie idea. That should be a movie. You're right.
I think I got it used at like a GameStop once. I was like, oh, this seems interesting. Put it in. It just blew me away. So yeah, it's really good.
Nice. All right. Thomas, have you played anything lately? Any video games that stand
Well,
out?
well, some like old video games I've played recently is Splatterhouse.
Love
Oh, yeah.
Splatterhouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see see other people like that game as well.
I would say Splatterhouse is probably the best Friday the 13th game that's not actually a Friday the 13th game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
I would love to play that. Yeah, yeah. Like
Nice.
a new version of it. Because I've been playing like Dead by Daylight Mobile. That's another game I've been playing a lot of. But Splatterhouse, I remember that. That would be a great one to
For me, as
start
someone
that
who,
back.
well, I mean, because I haven't been playing video games that much over the last like decade or so, but
Mhm.
I am looking forward to as someone as someone who's both a fan and has worked with Trauma in the past and has played their marquee character. I'm looking forward to their upcoming Toxic Crusaders game, which I'm like, okay, I gotta get it. I have to finally join the 2020s and get a new console so I can play that.
Just for that one game. All right. Sounds good.
Also
That's
the
funny.
new Turtle games, but
And for me, honestly, I have not played a game recently, but I definitely want to check out the new Tetris movie, which
Yeah.
yeah, which is basically a biopic about the creator of Tetris.
There's also a comic book called Tetris: The Games We Play.
Okay.
It also covers the origins and creation and origins of Tetris.
Because aside from Mario, Tetris is definitely my favorite video game ever. Like when
Oh
I
yeah,
go
I
to
love that.
arcade, that's like the only game I play.
Someone
And
stole my Game Boy in college, and I've never forgotten that. It's like my Citizen Kane sled. It's like
oh, Rosebud, Tetris.
No, I remember,
yes.
I remember my dad bringing home one of his bringing home one of his work computers, and he would just like play, and like sometimes instead of working, he would just be playing Tetris on it.
Nice.
It's
I
so
love
good.
that.
Yeah,
It's a great game. It's timeless. It'll never ever grow old.
it's simple. Yeah, you just play it on the train, whatever. It's
Yeah,
fun.
anytime, anywhere. All right, guys. So we just have a few minutes left, but before we end tonight, I just wanted to go over some new releases for the week that this episode's going to air. So starting April 18th, we've got a horror called An Ennisman.
Ennisman. Some of my friends have already seen that.
Okay.
I saw it.
Oh, okay.
I think right now it's just like limited release.
it's
I'm guessing
limited?
it's going into general release.
By the way, I'm
Yeah,
reading
yeah.
of IMDb, so just FYI. We've got a documentary called Accidental Truth, UFO Revelations. We've got a horror film called The Reaper Man. And next up, we've got
Evil Dead Rise.
So this is April 21st. So it's a big release date. Evil Dead Rise is at the top here. Bo
I
is
just saw
afraid.
that.
Okay, cool.
Very bloody.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice.
Groovy.
Awesome. We've got an A24 release called Bo is Afraid.
Ray Aster.
It's stars Joaquin Phoenix, so that's definitely on my list it's on my radar for sure. Chevalier, we've got Guy Ritchie's The Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a war film. Got Kissy Ka by Kissy Ki John.
I believe that's a Bollywood movie.
Yeah, I'd say so. We've got him Somewhere in Queens.
Where we are.
There we are. Starring Ray Romano and Laurie Metcalf.
Also Jennifer Esposito and Sebastian Maniscalco.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, I think it played Tribeca last year, if I'm not mistaken. It played somewhere. I forget which festival it played. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
One of the festivals.
That looks interesting. We've got a documentary, Little Richard, I Am Everything. We've got a drama thriller called Chokehold. And rounding things off is Carol Burnett, A Celebration, which comes out on April 22nd. So that's a lot of stuff coming our way in the next week or two. All right, guys. So since we're done with the coming attractions, I just want to go around and see if there's any plugs you want to make, any projects you're working on. Brian, take it away.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm with New York City Horror Film Festival. We're currently in the submission phase. Our festival is until December of this year, but I think submissions end in September. So if you have any screenplays, films, shorts, features, anything gory, scary, thrilling, whatever you want to send to us, we're on, Film Freeway. You can go on to nychorrorfest.com and, you can submit through there. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. I'm also I help podcast on Gruesome Magazine as well.
Cool. And Brian, what would you say would your top 3 favorite horror films of all time be?
Well, Halloween is the one that got me into horror.
Yes.
That was a gateway film. Poltergeist was another one,
Yes.
1982. A lot of my favorite films have all since been remade, so I always have to say like 78, 82. And I would get oh man, it's a tie between Aliens and Lost Boys. I was an 80s kid. I was an
Oh,
80s fan. And
all great.
Aliens, I saw. Well, Halloween and Poltergeist were 2 films that I was kept away from as a kid, and then when I finally saw them, they were great. And Aliens, I saw as a child in the theater with my, parent or guardian. And same thing with Lost Boys. I saw that Lost Boys. I saw that in the theater, and yeah, those are just films that really, affected me and growing up. So
I hear you. I mean, off the top of my head, I'd probably say The Shining. Might be number 1. That and the original Alien is fantastic. It's basically Halloween in space, which I love. And a movie you don't really hear about a lot, but I love, and it's Fright Night, the original.
Yeah. It's almost like Fright Night and Lost Boys are my 2 favorites. Yeah, definitely.
Such a good time. Such a good time.
But Lost Boys has my first. I think it was my first soundtrack that I spent my own money for, and I'm basically vinyl, cassette, and CD and iTunes in terms of that Lost Boys soundtrack evolution. That's how old I am.
Nice. Thomas, favorite horror movie?
Well, my favorite horror movie is in general my favorite movie, Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, watched that movie many times. I've met the cast of the movie, met the director many times as well. So.
Well,
and
if you're
other horror movies I really do enjoy. I really enjoy Fright Night, as you see right there, and
well,
also Scream, of course.
Yep.
So that's the movie that actually got me into horror. That movie over there is the reason why I'm a horror fan.
and you know what, Thomas, I could be mistaken, but I think New Jersey Horror Con, Clarissa Rose, I think is going to be there this year. So
She was. It was just. I don't know if she's doing it again, but she was just there, and yeah, I went to that one.
you
Just
did?
recently. Yeah, she hosted karaoke, and
Oh,
I sang science fiction double feature. She gave me a hug afterwards. She said I
Oh,
moved to this year.
awesome.
Hey, she gave me a hug too. So
Melissa
Oh,
Rose is amazing. She's great. Everyone loves her. She's just a ball of light and energy and love, and she's great. She's amazing.
that's so cool. Yeah, we did a commentary, what was it, last year, for Sleepaway Camp, and we
about last year, so I think it may have been like some around the summer, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
Yes.
something like that. And we had one of the Shit Sisters on the show, and she was on with us, and we were just chatting with her, and she was very, very cool. Amy Fields, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, very sweet person. Faris, how about you? Favorite horror film of all time?
Okay, so favorite horror movie. Well, okay, so my top 2 movies are actually Aliens and The Toxic Avenger, but I don't know. I don't know if you can really if those are like considered like true horror because Aliens is more action
Sci-fi action.
and Toxic Avenger is like more comedy superhero.
Right.
So I don't know how Brian, what your take is on that, Brian.
I grew up on Toxic Avenger. I saw it way too early, but I saw it on cable, and I remember the ads promoting it like it was a gritty grindhouse like horror movie. It was just like a shot of him coming through the door, and then I saw the movie finally on cable, and it's one of those movies that I've memorized because I used to just have it on VHS and just would watch it over. I think it was Toxic Avenger and Modern Problems for some reason on back to back on VHS. I used to rewind them, so I know like Toxic Avenger almost like beginning to end, all the music cues. That the first 14 minutes of that movie, I think, are like the best 80s movie spoof made in the 80s. It's so of the time, but it looks like it feels like a spoof. And great score, great music, and it's so lively and funny.
Although if I had to go with like favorite straight up horror that's not an action movie, trying to sharing genres with like action or comedy, I'm saying Halloween, the original Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a crowd pleaser for sure.
It's just beautiful to look at too. It's just great cinematography.
Well,
Simple, but it's a very
very
classic, simple but effective.
right. It's all about
Right.
atmosphere
Yes.
and mood. It's like the music is beautiful, the cinematography is perfect, and it really is a perfect horror movie.
Actually, it's a classic case of less is more. Like less is
Right.
more.
Because it was an indie. It was
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And it makes suburbia terrifying because
Right.
I grew up in New York in the city, and it's like, okay, you can go to the corner store, you can go to the local
Right.
police
I live
station,
in-
but here it's like, you know,
No.
I mean, I live. I
Butcher
mean,
these episodes.
so I used to live in Salt Lake City, Utah, where Halloween 4, 5, and 6 were filmed.
Oh, nice.
So, and I knew where a lot of the filming locations for those movies were. So, I actually have lived in Haddonfield, um, and like even where I live now on Long Island, my neighborhood feels very Haddonfield-ish.
Right.
Yeah.
Thomas, did I ask you what your plugs are?
Not yet, no.
Okay. All right. You're up.
Okay, so I'm gonna plug in a event I'm gonna be going to in a few weeks. It's called Queens of Horror. It's pretty much like a little meet and greet event at the Wonderland of the Americans Mall, which is a local mall right by me. So for this little meet and greet, they're gonna have people like Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5,
Wow.
Kathleen Kimmott from Halloween 4, Beatrice Bopel from Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Eileen Dietz from The Exorcist, Kim Myers from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Anna Fremont from VHS,
Okay.
Marley Renfro from Psycho, and Mark Patton from Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Nice.
Cool, awesome.
That's a good
Yep.
list. Very good.
Yep.
How about you, Forrest?
Well, so, since we've been talking, we spent this whole show talking about both the new and the original Mario movie. So, we just saw the new one this week. You all saw the new one this week. So actually, I'm going to a 30th anniversary screening of the 1993 Mario movie, Super Mario Brothers movie at Nighthawk Cinema later this month.
Amazing. And
I saw that. I saw the ad for that. Yeah.
I would totally be there with you, but I have work the next morning, and I believe it's like a 9:15 screening.
Yeah, like 9 o'clock at night.
It's a little late for me because I'm an old man, but no, it's I would be there. I'll be there in spirit with you. And I just want to mention coming up in August, we've got a little Fright Night reunion. We've got Amanda Bierce, William Ragsdale, and Stephen Jeffries. And yeah, that's in August at the Showboat Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So just FYI again, Thomas, right there for you.
I would say double check on that because I don't know. I think it's a convention center in Edison. I don't think it's at Showboat. It's New Jersey Horror Con.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because otherwise because I just came from their April show and at the Showboat, the March show, and
their previous events were at the Showboat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not even sure how to get there or what kind of hotel it is, but yeah, that's I'd be all over that because I want to meet Amanda. I would love to meet her.
Yeah, same.
That would be
Yeah, no, Married with Children is my all-time favorite sitcom. So
Yeah, and she did a lot of the really good episodes. It was like you'd be laughing so hard, and then her name would pop up as director. I'm like, she's she's low key like an underrated talent,
Yeah, she went from Fright Night to around this.
Married
2 years later was a Married with Children. Strange evolution.
And William Ragsdale did like Herman's Head. It was an interesting Fox night for me, especially as a horror fan. I was like, old friends,
Well, I actually met William Ragsdale.
Oh, nice.
His autograph's actually right on that poster, and that poster too.
How is William? Is he a nice guy?
Oh yeah, he was a nice guy. I also did Chris Sarandon that same day as well.
Cool.
I believe Ragsdale was in Renfield coming up too.
Oh, is he? Oh, interesting.
I believe, yeah. I was like, oh, that just perked me up there. Oh, that's obviously they know their stuff, so
And Mannequin 2 on the move. All right, guys.
We don't discuss that one. No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, so plugs for me. You can just catch new episodes of Under the Radar every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern through Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Also on cable TV channels, FiOS 34, RCN Astound 83, and Spectrum 56 1996. Also, feel free to visit the Under the Radar YouTube channel and just subscribe and share to that. So, gentlemen, Forrest, Brian, Thomas, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. This was a wonderful show as always, and you're always welcome on. And yeah.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Cool. Anytime, guys. So I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar. We'll see you next time. Take care.